Bardock introduces the new color black into Fusion World, bringing with him a slew of brand new combo-based mechanics. Welcome to Archetype 101. I'm Espira and we'll be breaking down Bardock. We'll be going over what the deck aims to do, an example deck list to get you started, and some gameplay to see in action. So without further ado, let's get started. Bardock is a black leader released in Raging War. He's a typical draw type leader with an awaken at 4 life. Once awakened, Bardock can attack for 25k power and gains a new activate battle that allows him to combo his crew from the top of the deck. Utilize the brand new field card to stack your deck and ensure you'll get the combo through, especially in combination with the new 3-cost SR Bardock. Use a combo in his combats and you'll draw a card and re-stand him to attack once more. This effect can even be used on defense, giving the archetype a ton of cycle and flexibility. As far as the example decklist goes, we're utilizing a lot of Bardock's crew just to kind of guarantee ourselves being able to combo 10k. I think the more powerful ones that you utilize are just 10ks, and then the other ones are kind of just to hedge your positions. But there's a lot of usages for things like the Fascia, for example, in being able to be a free combo when you want to start attacking with things like your Bardock. Being able to combo off the board where you already got a draw with them is really powerful. So cantrips in themselves in a deck that wants to utilize the Bardock more often is incredibly powerful. Otherwise, in terms of crew, we're using the promo Bardock here. Is a 10k Bardock crew, which is really important, and just happens to be a self-awakener. You don't utilize him to self-awaken all that often, just because he's not powerful on board. Pan and SS3 definitely do much more work, but nevertheless, it is a self-awakener that's a 10k, and we'll take that. In terms of self-awakeners, we're also running a pair of Tauras, just because between the SS3 and the Pan, usually they're enough to self-awaken, and then especially when we got the Bardocks. So here is just an additional Bardock's crew name that we're adding to the deck that does a little bit of something, and can also stack our deck a little bit. And then in the remaining Bardock slots, we've got Shugesh, Great Ape, just more 10k combo. We're running this Bardock as well, just another 5k combo that's able to dump out another attacker. So there are actually some board positions where being able to use a 3-drop to then play a 2-drop can actually be pretty solid for us. It's not amazing, but it's an option that the deck has. And then in looking as far as our non Bardock, we're running a pair of Kakarots because being able to get the energy marker on turn 1 allows us to accelerate our SS4s much quicker. I will caveat, I only own 3 SS4s. I would always recommend 4. It is a 4 of secret rare, but at the moment I only have 3, so we're only gonna be running 3 for this how to play. Running 3 Bardocks, honestly super solid card. I would want to consider running 4, but usually you end up seeing 1 by the time you need it with the 3, especially with the extra dig of the field card. Running super combo, Tanks Kamehameha, and 2 resisting Destiny. A much easier card to proc off in Bardock because you just get the combo from the top of your deck. Tanks Kamehameha, really solid cleaning up certain boards. It's definitely dead in some matchups, but at that point it's just an easy charge, or you can just get rid of it with a lonesome final battle, which is the field card that allows you to stack top your deck. Otherwise, generally not a ton of options for Bardock just because of how limited we are with the black card pool. We don't have a lot of cards to work with, and even less of them are Bardock's crew. But nevertheless, the deck is very powerful, and I think the leader can do a lot of work just on his own, even if we're not utilizing a bunch of Bardock's crew with powerful effects. So with that, let's check out some gameplay and see how it runs out. Jumping into this first game, and we actually go up against Yellow Vegeta, and Yellow can actually press with some really annoying positions based on how much they can lock down our board. Yellow kind of thrives if you're playing against any kind of mid-range deck that is utilizing the power of being able to attack with big bodies on board multiple times in a row without the benefit of being so big that you're forcing like a million cards out of their hand, which can make it a little bit rough. But we're starting out with the field card in our hand. We've got a couple of Bardocks, we've got some self-awakening. So we're in a position at least to make it easier for us to stack our deck in a way that our leader at the very least will always be a strong threat to attack with. So we'll just launch this, go this into ×2, and here we go. So kicking off with the field card, I think it's a fantastic turn 1 play. Don't really have much else going on. We could play a cantrip, which could set up our plays for the future, but it's nothing too crazy there. So from there, well, we see the second field, so we're not going to give ourselves too much trouble there. Easy charge, which is kind of the fun part of including cards like field is, yeah, later in the game, they're dead cards, but the fact that they're easy charges can make them fun for that. So from there, we're draw, and what's nice is that, you know, if you lean your deck towards just all the 10Ks, you do have a lot of 10Ks to be able to play out with the deck. And of course, here's the SS4. any black deck is really not doing them a favor if they're not leaning on the SS4 for things like just playing out the mid-range game, even more so than the 3-drop Bardock. That's just how good the secret rare is. So that's always something to keep in mind. Here we are drawing out more 10Ks. And actually, that's where the flexibility in black comes in, is that, you know, a little bit less flexible with Bardock because you do want X amount of Bardock's crew to be able to combo with using his ability. But even then, there's a lot of freedom in deck building right now because of how few options there are, that any of these vanillas or 10Ks can easily be replaced with anything else. So here we opt to go for the Self-Awaken, kind of going for a bit of a slower turn as opposed to just jamming the secret rare here. Just give ourselves a little bit more press, especially since our opponent's not awakened yet. I feel comfortable just taking a bit more time with our turns. Also, the field card is just great at clearing out what you don't want. Being able to put a bunch of cards at the bottom of the deck sure allows us to be able to combo using our leader ability, but also actually puts us in a position where we can find things like SS4 just that much quicker. So here we go, Vegeta having to awaken himself, and I am a big fan of him having to spend the energy to do that himself as opposed to having us commit into it. Obviously now we're gonna have to defend ourselves a little bit, but given the advantage we're gonna get from being able to use back-to-back secret rares, I'm not too concerned with that. And the beauty against yellow is that even if they lock down your secret rare, you can still get the draw if you have another way of building or utilizing an energy marker. So here we're gonna let Bardock go. Not too keen on keeping him around, to be honest. Kind of a weak body. The notion that if you combo, he then becomes a 5K above just means he's outright at being a 20K at that point. So we could super combo here, or if we had one, instead we're going to utilize 2 10Ks. I like the 25K on board if it's not going to get stunned. At the very least, it's additional pressure, especially leaning into an SS4 turn that we're about to see here. So yellow Vegeta will get their 2 energy back, which can open up some plays. So we just have to be smart about the way that we sequence this, in case, you know, time reround here is going to go ahead and protect one of his cards. But what we really want to be careful for is if we get death beamed, or death balled, we want to make sure that we don't have a card on board that gets rested because of it. So here we go, draw into a super combo, which is great on defense for us. We're going to stack our deck a little bit here, apply a bit of pressure, and then we have a couple of options. If we wanted to, we could just go with the double striker and apply a lot of pressure and some board removal, or we could just go with the secret rare and start drawing some cards. So we'll use the energy marker here, just because we don't have a clean usage of the energy marker, and you just have to keep in mind of that. It's okay to utilize the energy marker to play the Goku to be able to guarantee a draw. Here, we're just going to combo away the cantrip away from the top of our deck. And the way the end of turn trigger goes, you just need to use an energy marker by the time Son Goku GT is on the board at the end of the turn. Goku doesn't need to see the energy marker be used. So then from there, we're just really clean to be able to get our draws, and we've got another one in our back pocket if we want to. So we just need to do a typical defense here. Opponent could send in the double strike Golden Frieza. That could apply an annoying amount of pressure, but we should be okay because while removal in black isn't amazing across the board, the fact that you always have the option to be able to pop anything with Bardock while applying double strike pressure is always welcome. And we can be much more loose with the cards we utilize on defense, specifically because every turn we're drawing an additional card. If we got 2 Gokus, we're drawing 2 additional cards. So a lot of flex there. We can go ahead and defend out of this if we wanted to. So we'll just go ahead and give it a cheeky 10K. Now I will say, and this is where yellow is incredibly annoying, things like 4-drop Goku, if you're playing against the Bobbity package, the Wicked Soul package, the field card, incredibly annoying when it comes to just doing this to your board and making it a little bit harder for you to be able to play out your mid-range game. So just something you have to keep in mind, but we're still in a position where we can apply a lot of pressure. Our leader swings for 25, which means our opponents always have to combo 10, combo 2 cards there, so probably didn't have a clean combo. And we're maintaining cards in hand. And this is something that I've like really been noticing with the set, is the ability to just consistently have a huge hand. Here we're going to play a big 30k body, draw an additional 2 cards. We're going to cost at least a super combo or 2 cards from our opponent. And then here we're at 40k, so either force a take or here's the time reround. That's fine, but now you're still costing that additional card. So this is where Bardock is really sweet, in that those free additional 10Ks doesn't cost us a card in our hand, but will often cost a card in our opponent's hand, just allowing that allowing for that difference to go even bigger. Here we go. We draw into our 3rd secret rare, which is awesome, and we're up 8 cards to 5 now. Now, card could get stunned, but again, we just have means to be able to use our energy marker. And this is actually where the sequencing is a little bit important, where I actually like holding on to an energy marker when possible if I've already used it, just in a world where if my SS4s get removed, at the very least I'll have an energy marker to be able to still proc their ability if they're still on board. Now we're at a point here where I'm just going to go ahead and take that. Honestly, it's variable between which one to take, but we have the 10k here for the 25k swing. I do want to save these in case we end up having to see a double striker. Don't want to have to go down to one, honestly, especially against yellow, where yellow Vegeta is running a bunch of cards that activate battle and can apply a bunch of pressure. Final Explosion, very strong yellow card, to be totally honest. Can really hard punish some turns. Here, we're going to get another 25k swing into our lead. Just going to have to use this resisting Destiny here, get us out of range while sustaining our super combos, because sometimes it's not always obvious if you have an energy marker or not. So pretty good board here from our opponent, but we do have the benefit that we have more cards in hand than them. And of course, if we wanted to, we've got the SS4 to run through with as well. And even if our opponent's a 25k lead, we are also a 25k lead, which is really fun with the Bardock leader, just always being able to apply that pressure, especially when you're dealing with leaders like Jiren or Bardock, Jiren or Broly, or even Zamasu. So this card's really sweet, going to be able to get us to clear out a couple of bodies, make it a little bit more sustainable for our turns, and we'll probably just end up going with another SS4 to once again apply more pressure, draw more cards. It's probably going to be stuck there the turn afterwards because of this Goku, but that's okay, because come next turn we can use something like Japan, like get it off board, which could potentially be worse, but forces our opponent into a position where they have to play differently. So here our opponent will go ahead and combo out of that, and now they're just chilling, so we'll just get a draw, get the maximum usage of our energy here. We find another super combo. So on defense, we're feeling pretty good here. Even if we go down to double strike range, our opponent goes all in, we're effectively guaranteed to make it through. Here we see a Bulma, so this is just going to be an additional draw, so our opponent digging for themselves here. But then next turn, we're in a position where we'll be able to swing with this, potentially make it 30. You swing with our leader, and then go in for the double strike to close out the game, if that's the kind of position we're stuck in. Otherwise, we can still just swing with the Pan, get a draw. And I love Pan as a late game body that just draws you a card. That's just like a really neat place to be. Here we get the free 5k from the cantrip to kind of protect ourselves from there. So it's not the best position in the world, but we're feeling pretty good, especially since our opponent hasn't dropped a massive threat. It's always been 25k swings, which don't feel amazing, but we'll defend ourselves. We'll feel okay for it. Our opponent only has 1 energy left, so we know that we're not going to get hit by like some spooky double strike or something like that. And that's pretty much chill. Our opponent leaves it at that, restands 3 energy. And now we're in a position to just drop the double striker, which is great. We're going to get rid of the Bulma here just in case. Obviously, we could have attacked into our opponent's leader, but, you know, they're yellow Vegeta. Odds are they have the defenses, and I would just rather guarantee trying to clear out some stuff here. And then here, likely what we're going to do, a couple of options. Could go for the Bardock just to put him at 1. It can be really spooky to put him at 1, but then we'd be in a really tight position. However, Pan just draws us a card, and I love the notion of drawing a card. We get to use the energy marker as well. We get to bounce something off board, so if we want to, we can just bounce the Goku back, which, yes, obviously just gives them a 10k combo to be able to get for free, but we kind of go 1 for 1 on that by being able to utilize the top of our deck like that. And not having another 25k on board means that he either chooses to play the double strike or play the Goku. You can't do both, which makes it a little bit better for us. And then drawing into the Pan is awesome because we just have a bunch of free energy to utilize. Might as well get an attack in and draw an additional card once more. So we replace our 5k combo while having more attacks on board and pressing our opponent here. And now we're in a pretty juicy spot where he can Golden Frieza, fine. He can use Goku, fine. But we're in a position now where, hey, drawing a little bit more combo power, we can probably press that final damage in and then next turn go in for the double strike. So here, 1 card to protect the Pan seems fine to me, especially since our opponent didn't attack into us. We just know that, you know, we just have to defend against this Majin Buu swing if it comes at our leader to protect from double strike. That's not happening. So we can probably just let this Pan go now and then see what it is. We're unlikely to just be on lethal. He just replays the Goku, tries to stun down our board. So here, if he attacks into our board some more, we'll probably just end up protecting it. No reason not to. Just give us that additional attacker to be able to press the opposing leader. Yep, so cheeky 5k there. Opponent has 1 energy standing. Probably just going to leave it up to have 2 more refreshed. So honestly, I feel pretty good here. Yeah, our board's been stunned every single turn, but we're still in a position where if we could generate an energy marker, we'd be able to press our opponent. Here, we're just going to get the swing in. We're going to swing with the Bardock, potentially use the field card just to see whether we're going to stack the top of our deck in a way to use it in combo right here. And then we draw into another 3-drop Bardock. So the charge here previously, even though Bardock is a great card, was just so that we had the extra energy for the resisting destiny. So here the opponent is going to defend that. So we're not going to get in with the double striker, but now we're in a position where if we stack the top of our deck correctly, we can utilize the 3-drop and just clear his board. We could also pressure, but there's no real reason to do that. So here we're going to utilize that ability here, get the draw. We draw into another 10k while also comboing a 10k, which is really sweet. Then our opponent here is in a position where they're able to death ball, which is super rough. And that's what I was talking about earlier in the game, where you just have to be careful with yellow Vegeta because they could always be in a position to put you in these awkward spots. Here, I actually don't mind pressing with this because we have the extra energy and our opponent has 0 cards in hand, which if we get rid of this Goku and our opponent doesn't have anything amazing going for themselves afterwards, nope, they do have the super combo, but now they're stuck to a top deck. So at a minimum, we know on board we're protected, we're safe. We've got a bunch of cards on board, depending on what our opponent wants to do. If he draws into the double strike, that's okay. We still have 3 super combos, but we'll likely just end up leaving our board there to go. If he attacks into the Bardock, maybe we protect the Bardock here, just get ourselves an additional draw. But everything from here is pretty chill. Only 2 cards in hand. We still have the double striker. We're feeling pretty good. So Goku there, and you're just going to keep on pressing on the board. Question is he going to go for the SS4? Is he going to go for the Bardock? Is he just going to go for the SS3 while stunning down the SS4? Makes sense. And then here's the double striker. So sure. I mean, at the end of the day, has successfully stunned our entire board, but now our opponent has 1 card in hand. 1 card in hand, and they've utilized 1, 2, 3 super combos. So we can essentially guarantee ourselves a position here where if we go to 30, maybe we don't go to 30. We'll see. I kind of played this game out a little while ago. We are just going to chip it to 30, see what our opponent does, takes. So now we know that we can just kind of go in with the double striker. Our opponent has 2 cards in hand. They could account for, with Blue Awakening, you could be like 25 and 20 with the super combo. So you're looking at something like 65 potentially on defense, which we actually get over here with the amount of combo in our hand. And then the opponent sums it up. Also, the ability gets rid of the double striker, which isn't perfect, but obviously not having a double striker on board and our opponent comboing away their entire hand means that once again, we're at the will of top decks and we'd be fine from that as well. But we did have lethal in hand, and that's where we locked it in against the yellow Vegeta. All right, so here we find ourselves in the black mirror match. We go second, which is nice, just getting the energy marker outright, meaning we won't have to use the Kakarot. And we're starting with the field card in our hand, which feels pretty good. The black mirror match falls into this weird position where you end up contesting for SS4s on board. So, you know, there are positions where Pan is really good. And I do like Bardock here specifically because you're just always a 25k lead, regardless of what your board is like. And your removal kind of doesn't care about how big your opponent's cards are very often. Things like Pan or whatever, just bounce 4 drops back to hand. So the counterbalance between having Pans on board, having GT Gokus on board, and then who's got the Bardocks to be able to answer the SS4s is what puts you in a very precarious position in this mirror match. I will say though that because we have the consistency of the field card on board on turn 1, does give us a bit more draw here to play with. I don't know that I'm a big fan of the Dr. Mew, but it is one way to be able to get yourself an energy marker, especially if you don't have a Kakarot in hand. And at the end of the day, it is still a 10k combo. So I get it. I don't love it, but I understand why people play with it. Sometimes you do end up in positions where you just don't have the energy marker. So here we're going to clean up our draws a little bit for the next couple of turns. And now we're in a position where, you know, depending on what our opponent can do, we may want to be able to play a Pan instead to set up for the turn after that we went SS4. But based on the way that our opponent is playing, I don't think that's the position that we're in. So we actually have the Bardock in hand now, which is great to be able to answer anything spooky on the opponent's side of the board. And we're positioned to be able to use an SS4 next turn as well. We're not going to be awakened, but that's fine. I'd rather have the additional draws, and we can awaken the turn after utilizing Pan, especially if the answer is another SS4 themselves. So here instead, they're actually going to use the Para Brothers on our 25k. Not the strongest of moves, but it uses the energy marker where they wouldn't have had a usage for it anyways from the looks of it. And it does prevent them from being attacked into for another 25k here. So just utilizing all the energy, including the energy marker. Digging for the digging with pan kind of makes sense. Just try to find your own SS4, but we feel like in a very comfortable position here. So probably just slam out our own SS4, get additional draws, and see what comes out of that. Oh, gonna defend themselves here. So now we're in a position where we actually don't need to attack with SS4 right away. Obviously, you could get para'd and prevent us from being able to net another energy marker. But having that energy marker does mean that we're able to draw the next turn. We could also just utilize 10x Kamehameha here if we wanted to be able to clean up the board. But at the end of the day, I like having the energy marker. And look, that extra dig was able to get us into the SS4 sooner than we would have. So field card on turn 1 feels pretty good. Just for being able to dig in your deck. And I think that's something that's really powerful about Bardock, is that I think there's a world in which you just play Bardock as a 25k attacker that is also able to clean up the top of the deck and will sometimes incidentally be able to combo. I think that might be a powerful way to play Bardock instead of leaning all in on the Bardock's crew. So how specifically that deck build plays out is something that I'm still considering, but definitely the route of just being a strong 25k leader that has clean draws is something that's very appealing. And then you just have the field card whenever you want to line up a 10k combo. So here we've got the SS3 swing for 35k, and that's what's really powerful about GT Goku, is his ability to make any attacker a threat. Even a 5k with the energy marker becomes a 20k, you know? So in the late game where you're just kind of trying to, in a simplified game state where you're just trying to draw out cards, to be able to dwindle down your opponent, you both have 1 or 2 cards and you're trying to get one last damage in, the ability to turn 1 energy into 10 or 15k is incredibly powerful. So opponent here utilizing this Bardock, and I keep this Bardock around for Self-Awakening. Obviously in this deck, he's also solid as a 10k combo, but I will say as on board, just being a 15k that nets 5k seems good until you realize that all you're really doing is turning him into a 25k. So here we're going to utilize the energy marker, clean up our opponent's board a little bit because get some stuff off. And then we've got our energy marker usage for when we go into the SS4, which we've just drawn another. And honestly, this is kind of the dream scenario here for the mirror match, just having multiple SS4s, because even if your opponent Bardocks, they're only going to be able to deal with 1. So you're in a really solid position once you have 2, because it means almost regardless of what your opponent's going to do, you'll be able to sustain having 1 SS4 on board. And obviously it makes positions where, now you're generating 2 energy markers a turn. So you're just netting 2 free energy every turn, allows you to extend your plays a lot, get additional draws. It makes it much easier to cycle in a pan to be able to deal with your opponent's threats. And obviously, the Bardock now here feels really good because we can play him and still have energy backup to do other things, as well as just use our leader ability to always get the additional draws. And then here we're able to just get his very solid draw of another super combo and another 10k. And this is really good position. We're up to 13 cards in hands to our opponent's 9, while also having a 25k and 2 30ks on board. So opponent swings here 5. It does mean we could face a double striker. I've been in and off here on while our opponent plays a 1-drop to get an energy marker. I've been in and off on the Great Ape who gained intelligence. It's essentially just another usage of the Goku ability that can sometimes draw you a card. Can be really strong with SS4 as well. I've seen some decks utilize it. I'm not too keen on it because I do find that there's some awkward positions where I don't have the 1 energy, but it's definitely a card that can put in some good work depending on what's happening here. So uses the energy marker, loses the 10k to get net a 5k to be able to get a draw. Not amazing, but will get the damage through. But we feel so good here, especially with the double striker, that I don't particularly mind. Defensively, we'll just be able to defend anything our opponent throws our way, even if it's a double striker the next turn. So just go ahead and play an SS4 because why not? Let's draw an infinite amount of cards. Definitely could have just went for lethal here. I think at this point, I'm just being a little bit greedy in trying to press our opponent. But hey, we have the advantage. Why not? Especially since we've got the energy marker. So we draw a card with pan while applying pressure and removing a card from the opponent, and they're just going to call it quits there. Makes sense. I was about to draw 4 cards across pan and the 3 SS3s and having a massive board. So either way, really powerful, solid stuff. I think our opponent was a little bit newer with the black deck, but nevertheless, just showcases kind of how you mitigate your opponent's board. And it really does become a battle of, if you have the SS4, you just run away with the game in the way that we did there. I think Bardock is an incredibly powerful strategy and utilizes Black's want to combo incredibly well, especially when you have the combination of the field card on board. I feel a little bit iffy about the deck just because you don't have a ton of Bardocks that you would play otherwise, and the only reason you're running as much Bardock's crew is because they're 10k combos, or because they enable you to be able to cantrip into utilizing your 3-drop Bardock a little bit more efficiently. So in that vein, I do think, unfortunately, because it's just starter deck support for most of it, while with a couple of Bardocks in the main set, there's a bit to be desired there, and I'm hoping that with the next set, we're going to be able to get a bit more Bardock's crew that we want to play that also expand things that we can do with the deck. But nevertheless, I think the deck is strong enough just as a 25k leader that there's a reason to just play out the leader as a Black Good Stuff deck that incidentally is able to 10k for free with 10k from the top of the deck every now and then. And I think that could position the deck really well. And with that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one.